Recording also.
Yes, recording on.
Hey, are you getting the disturbance because of my WhatsApp messages? No? Okay.
No.
Okay. Let me know when we are live on YouTube. We will quickly start. I am already sending reminders on all the WhatsApp groups for members to join us. There have been many registrations for today's program. और बाई चांस आज कोई मिस कर देता है तो आज वाला सेशन यूट्यूब में देख के कल भी हमें ज्वाइन कर सकता है. संजीव सर, अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम. आपको भी बहुत नमस्ते. सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को वेरी वार्म वेलकम. A very warm welcome to our founder, CA Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, our speaker, CA Advocate Bhimanshu Kansal ji, and most probably our partners from OneNDF would be joining us towards the end. And a very warm welcome to all the participants who have joined us on a weekday for a 2-day webinar series on in-depth analysis of income tax reassessment proceedings. क्योंकि amendments के साथ साथ पिछले 2 साल में काफी complicated हो गया है. So let us get some clarity today for our members on this topic. Over to you, Sanjay sir, for your words of wisdom.
Thank you, CA Neha. I thank and welcome all the professionals on Voice of CA platform, those who have joined in these 2-day series of webinar on the topic all about reassessment proceedings. Let me tell you, when we used to go in election, at that time, we always used to say that I am available 24/7. So I always used to say इलेक्शन के बाद भी और इलेक्शन से पहले भी, अभी भी और इलेक्शन के बाद भी. So on the same analogy, this particular topic has been chosen by us that 2024 के बाद भी और 2024 फाइनेंस एक्ट के पहले भी what are the reassessment in the income tax act. That is why we have called our topic as all about reassessment proceedings. And let me tell you, friends, you might not have seen this faculty in the earlier webinar of Voice of Skill, but as we wanted to encourage the younger generation and we wanted to also see that let us have some new things, new ideas, new way of reading the law also be discussed among the members. So we all know that careful handling is required while dealing with the reassessment proceedings. As the proceedings are being opened by the assessing officer, bases the information already available in record and of the income tax. We may observe that last 4-5 budgets are not left without tinkering the provision in relation to reassessment proceeding. Thus, it becomes important for the professional to know that the law and the way to handle the reassessment proceedings are dynamic. We need to read very carefully the law. We need to go through each and every part of the notice, date of notice, signing of notice, digital notice, date of digital notice, the limbs which are there, what they are quoting, whether this is an assessment which will be subject to 148 or which will be directly for 148. So in today's webinar, we'll understand the amendments made in the statute by Finance Act number 2, 2024, in pursuant to which notices under 148 or 144 were being issued by the department in 2024 by March. Once we understand, we'll go through the law, then we will be in a better position to analyze the legality of the notice in terms of limitation period, sanction of approvals. These are the points which are required to be seen. As I said, date of issue, signing, procedural issue like I have discussed above, and jurisdictional issue, which will further help not only to handling the assessment proceeding before the AO, but also before the appellate authorities, courts, or in case which writ petition can be filed before the High Court or not. As Bhimanshu is a dual, he is not only a chartered accountant, but also an advocate. So he'll be able to tell us in which of the cases a writ jurisdiction will survive. Further, in the webinar will be held tomorrow also. I may not be available because I'm on tour, but I'll try to join. We'll understand reassessment proceedings tomorrow, provisions in relation to the notice issued from April 21, 1st April 21 to 31st August 24. The reassessment proceedings are still at assessment stages, where the notices were under 148 have been issued from April 24 to August 24. Also, the reassessment proceeding in relation to the notice issued from April 21 to March 24 have reached before the first appellate authority. In some cases, tribunal. In some cases, they have gone to the High Court in the writ remedy. In cases, proceedings are concluded with the adverse inferences. Then this webinar not only will help the professional to understand the way to handle the proceeding at a stage where it is currently pending. I think Bhimanshu to speak in today and tomorrow webinar as briefed by CA Neha that he is not only a chartered accountant but also an advocate. Since he practiced in the income tax litigation, I have a confidence that he will justify the topic in best manner. I'm going to make a request which I make to everyone that please handle the question answers. And in case, if because some of the questions are ticklish or some of the questions which are required to be handled by us post-seminar, post-webinar, then also I will request the head office to take the recording also and take back those questions and request Bhimanshu to see that all the questions are being answered. Now I hand over to Neha. As you all know, she is not only my daughter, but she is a chartered accountant and General Secretary of Voice of CA. Beside her, which she not tells from the VOCA, but I am now starting telling this thing that she is the founder of Master Brains. And she may brief you about that what wonder this Master Brain also can do for the professionals. Thank you very much. Happy learning and hope you that the experiment which we are doing today by introducing a new young faculty, so that will go gel. Thanks a lot for giving your time and confidence to us. Thank you very much. Over to Neha.
Thank you so much. I welcome the Karta of Voice of CA, C. Ashwani Jindal sir. Thank you for joining us today. I hope आज का प्रोग्राम सर आपको भी बढ़िया लगेगा.
नहीं श्योर बिल्कुल.
सर आप 2 शब्द बोलना चाहेंगे कुछ हमारे ऑडियंस के लिए आज?
नहीं थैंक यू वेरी मच नेहा, बड़ा अच्छा टॉपिक रखा है. रादर रीअसेसमेंट प्रोसीडिंग्स इट इज आल्सो कॉल टू द हार्ट ऑफ एवरी चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, क्योंकि जितने भी चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हैं वो इनकम टैक्स में तो जरूर प्रैक्टिस करते ही हैं. संजय जी का भी ये मेन टॉपिक है और बिमांशु जी का तो है ही है, क्योंकि जैसे हम देख रहे हैं कि 148 में आई थिंक सो कि 2 दिनों में हमारी जो वो क्लैरिटी है उस पर भी आएगी. जो जाओ फाओ के कारण जितने भी केसेस वो सभी हाई कोर्ट्स में वो स्टे हो रहे हैं कि व्हाट विल बी द फ्यूचर ऑफ दैट, वेदर देयर विल बी रिलीफ टू द असेसी, और वो फिर अल्टीमेटली हमें प्रोसीडिंग्स हैंडल ही करनी पड़ेंगी. उसके ऊपर भी आप जरूर चानना डालें. और क्या हम होप कर सकते हैं कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट से क्या हमारी फेवर में आएगा जाओ फाओ में, यहाँ से तो रिलीफ मिल गया तो आगे क्या होने वाला है. थैंक यू वेरी मच. वेलकम टू दिस इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक फॉर 2 days ऑन दिस 148.
जिंदाबाद करता.
ओके जी. हाँ जी
हिमांशु जी, हमारे कर्ता ने आपके लिए पहले ही सेट कर दिए स्टैंडर्ड कि ये तो आपको बताना ही पड़ेगा. So yes, I will
Definitely,
quickly
I'll
introduce
discuss that.
कुछ वॉइस ऑफ सीए के लेसन नोन इनिशिएटिव्स के बारे में मैं आपको यहाँ बताना चाहूंगी। जैसे कि पिछले साल हमने एक ऑडिट क्वेरी ग्रुप स्टार्ट किया था व्हाट्सएप पे, बहुत सारे रिनाउंड पैनलिस्ट उस ग्रुप के अंदर हैं, जहाँ पे हम ऑल अराउंड द ईयर जो भी ऑडिट चल रही होती है उसका हम लोग हमारे रिनाउंड पैनलिस्ट रियल टाइम बेसिस में आंसर करते हैं। इसके अलावा अभी पीछे बैंक ऑडिट के टाइम पे अश्वनी सर के इंस्पिरेशन में हम लोगों ने एक बैंक ऑडिट का भी क्वेरी ग्रुप अलग से बनाया था, विच हैज नाउ बीन डिसॉल्व्ड, और हम हर साल ये एक बैंक ऑडिट का ग्रुप भी बनाते हैं फॉर स्पेशल क्वेरीज ऑन बैंक ऑडिट। अगर आप किसी भी क्वेरी ग्रुप का पार्ट बनना चाहते हैं तो आप हमें voiceofca@gmail.com पे लिख सकते हैं, विल शेयर द लिंक विद यू। इसके अलावा वॉइस ऑफ सी एक जॉब वैकेंसी फेसबुक ग्रुप भी चलाता है, और वो वैकेंसीज हम लोग अपने वीकली न्यूज लेटर में भी शेयर करते हैं, जो आपके इनबॉक्सेस में हर वीक लैंड करता आ रहा है सिंस 2009। सिंस 2009 आई थिंक ये दूसरा डेकेड हम लोग अब पूरा करने वाले हैं इस सेवा का, जो न्यूज़लेटर्स में हम प्रोफेशनल अपडेट्स देते हैं, पर उसका सारा श्रेय हमारे मेंबर्स को जाता है। कभी भी आपको ऐसा लगता है कि आपने कुछ ऐसा लिखा है या कुछ बनाया है जो कि दूसरे प्रोफेशनल्स के काम आ सकता है, तो वो आप हमें एज प्रोफेशनल अपडेट्स शेयर कर सकते हो फॉर शेयरिंग इट विद द अदर प्रोफेशनल्स इन आवर फील्ड थ्रू voiceofca@gmail.com। इनफैक्ट अभी पिछले साल हम लोगों ने एक रेडी रेकनर भी चालू कर दिया है सारे सीपीआर प्रोग्राम इन नियर यू का, जो कि हम अपने वीकली मेलर्स में एज वेल एज वीकली व्हाट्सएप में भी शेयर करते हैं इन ऑल आवर ग्रुप्स। ऐसे बहुत सारे और इनिशिएटिव्स हैं, जैसे संजय सर बता रहे थे, जो कि लेड बाय सीएज हैं एंड फॉर सीएज हैं। यू कैन ऑलवेज कनेक्ट विद अस थ्रू एनी सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म वेर एवर यू आर एक्टिव। हम फेसबुक, टेलीग्राम, लिंक्डइन, व्हाट्सएप चैनल सब जगह हैं, और यूट्यूब में शायद ही ऐसा कोई प्रोफेशनल टॉपिक होगा जिसके बारे में आपको हमारे वॉइस ऑफ सीए के यूट्यूब चैनल पे कोई वीडियो ना मिले। ओवर द इयर्स अब वो इतनी बड़ी एक डायरेक्टरी बन गई है फॉर प्रोफेशनल अपडेट्स एंड प्रोफेशनल वीडियोस दैट यू कैन सिंपली गो ऑन वॉइस ऑफ सीए's यूट्यूब चैनल। प्लीज आप उसको सब्सक्राइब करें सो दैट you can be updated about the upcoming webinars also। कोई मिस हो गया है तो वो देख सकें, कोई पास्ट webinars अगर आप देखना चाहें, सेमिनार्स देखना चाहें, तो वहां से आप देख सकते हैं। I would quickly like to introduce our speaker for today, see Advocate Bhimanshu. He has almost 10 years of experience related to income tax and international tax before High Court, ITAT, CIT Appeal, and DRP. Currently, he is founder of Kansal Bhimanshu Legal and practicing as an advocate and representing the matters before the Tax Tribunal and High Court. He has made the deliberations on income tax assessment and appeal matters in NIRC, CP Committee of ICI, various study circles and branches of ICAI, or आज Voice of CA पे. He has also authored a book in MAT with the publisher Taxman. He has also written various articles on income tax matters in ICI member journal, NIRC, ICAI journal, and ICI branch monthly journals. In past, he was awarded with FIT Fellow 2023 award by the Foundation for International Taxation for his research paper on the international taxation topic OECD Pillar 2 project by Justice A.K. Sikri and Mr. Pramod Kumar, who's ex-VP ITAT Mumbai. We are happy to have you on our platform today, Bhimanshu. Thank you for accepting our invite so graciously, and I hope कि आप आज और कल हमारी ऑडियंस को पूरा जस्टिफाई कर पाए, इस टॉपिक को जस्टिफाई कर पाए। ओवर टू यू।
Thank you, Nayadi, for warm introduction. Goddess Saraswati, Sanjay Agrawal sir, founder, Voice of CA, Ashwini Jindal ji, senior member, CA, Neha Agrawal ji, General Secretary, Voice of CA.
Sorry
Other
to
team
interrupt you,
members.
Bhimanshu. You would have to be a little bit louder. थोड़ा सा लाउड होना पड़ेगा. Please come closer. हाँ.
Okay, I'm audible now, hopefully. Okay. Other team members of Voice of CA and today's joinees, dear professionals, good evening. So as sir has mentioned that reassessment proceeding is this type of topic, and Ashwani ji also mentioned that this is close to heart of every professional because every professional deal in income tax proceedings. And when we talk about reassessment proceedings, so this is a double burden on professionals that how to handle the reassessment proceeding, especially when income tax department having certain information and alleging that you have escaped this assessment. So it becomes responsibility on professional also, that how
Bhimanshu, you are stuck. Head office, क्या आप उनको inform कर सकते हैं?
that
उनको
what is
नेटवर्क
the
चला
law.
गया। हाँ, आ गया।
Yes. हाँ हाँ Bhimanshu, आप stuck हो गए थे last line, we could not.
Okay, so while handling the reassessment proceedings, so definitely we should know that what is the law in pursuant to which notices have been issued, and apart from that, we need to strategize that how we need to respond the notices, so that reassessment proceeding can be handled in a very well manner, because there are certain legal grounds also basis which we can see that the proceeding can be quashed. So for Voice of CA to give me an opportunity and to have on this platform, so I just share my screen, and in today's webinar we will discuss in relation to notices which have been issued under section 148 and 148A in pursuant to amendment brought in Law White Finance number 2 Act 2024. We can see that in last 4 to 5 years, law have been amended in relation to reassessment proceedings. And I believe so that the Law White Finance Act 2024 is still streamlined and also favorable for professionals. So I'll let you know that how it is favorable for assessee and professional. So now I share my screen. Nehaji, if you can confirm that it is visible. Okay.
Yes, it is visible. Okay.
So when we are talking about that notices have been issued in March 25, we need to know that what is the limitation period to issue these notices and for what assessment year these notices have been issued, especially in March 25. And also, as we are aware, because this procedure has been delineated in the law, White Finance Act 2021, and this has been for 4 years now, that before 148, the assessing officer need to follow the procedure, which is under section 148A. So notices have been issued under section 148A, and notices also have been issued under section 148 directly. We will discuss that under what circumstances notices can be issued directly without following the procedure under 148A. And in the circumstances where 148A procedure need to be followed, that we will also discuss. So what happened in prior law? Prior law, I mean to say that before Finance Act 2024, but after Finance Act 2021, there is limitation period to issue 148 notice only. And the limitation period of 148 is only been given that there is no time limitation period have been given of 148A. But as a procedure, since officer need to follow 148A, so once officer issue 148A, let's suppose in March 24, officer has issued 148A. Then the timeline to issue 148 dependent that what time has been given by assessing officer to assessee and what extension has been taken by assessee to respond 148A. Because the time period given by the assessing officer to respond 148A and the extension which has been taken by assessee to respond 148A need to be added in the limitation period of 148 notice. So accordingly, that depends upon 148A. But now in the amended law, there are two separate limitation period has been given. Limitation period for 148A is separate and totally independent from 148A proceeding. So first, we will understand that what is the limitation period to issue notice under 148A, because that is generally a procedure need to be followed before issuance of 148. So there are two timelines. So first is within 3 years from end of the relevant assessment year. This is general timeline if case does not fall under Rob law. This is clause B in Rob law, which says that officer can issue 148A within 5 years from end of the assessment year, subject to that assessing officer is having certain information which suggests income having escaped assessment chargeable to tax amounting to more than 50 lakh rupees, 50 lakh or more than 50 lakh rupees. So if this is the case that income escapement is of 50 lakh or more, then limitation period is 5 years. And if this is less than 50 lakh rupees, then limitation period is 3 years. So considering that in March 25, two assessment years for which notices have been issued. One is assessment year 1920, because from end of the 1920 in March 25, they are end of 5 years. And assessment year 21-22 from period of 3 years. So for two assessment years for which notices have been issued in March 25. Now, next thing which we need to understand here, that whether in each and every cases it is required to issue 148A notice prior issuance of 148. So in general, the answer is yes, but that we will discuss in our subsequent slide. But yes, in general, officer need to follow 148A procedure. And what is the importance that procedure of 148A should be as per law? And also I'll emphasize that during the procedure under 148A,
Yes, I would request the participants to keep patience. Bhimanshu ji,
8 note.
head office kindly resolve his network issue. Bhimanshu sir, आप 1 मिनट का ब्रेक लीजिए. Kindly resolve your network issue. आप दूसरे वाईफाई से कनेक्ट हो जाइए.
Just a minute.
हाँ, I've just told Rajesh sir in the head office. हाँ, काफी वॉइस ब्रेक हो रही है. मुझे लगा था इवेंचुअली एक आधी बार में ठीक हो जाएगा, बट इट इज नॉट हैपनिंग. आप एक बार नेटवर्क शिफ्ट कर लीजिए ब्रेक लेके. I thank all the participants for their patience. As I was telling you earlier, Voice of CA is present on all social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Telegram, as well as WhatsApp. आप जहाँ पे भी active हैं, please do allow us to stay in touch with you through our channels or groups. Bhimanshu ji, kindly try.
Yes, I'm audible now.
Please come closer.
Okay, it's better now.
Slightly better. Please try again.
Yeah, sure. So hopefully I'm audible now.
Yes, this is better. Please keep the distance. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so till now we have understood the limitation period to issue notice under section 148A. Now we are discussing the limitation period, as I mentioned that the limitation period to issue 148A is totally independent, whatever is the limitation period to issue 148A. So time limit to issue 148A is 3 years, 3 months. This looks very odd, but yes, this is the timeline, 3 years, 3 months from end of the relevant assessment year if case does not fall under clause B. And if case falls under clause B, then this is 5 years and 3 months from end of the relevant assessment year. In case assessing officer has in possession any books of account, documentation, evidence in relation to expenditure, transaction or entries, which shows that income escapement amounting to 50 lakh or more. So the amount is similar in relation to 148A and 148. Limitation period is still same 3 years, 5 years in relation to 148, 3 years, 3 months, 5 years, 3 months. So in a way, we can understand that assessee has been given 3 months time to respond 148A notice. If we see the prior law, then assessing officer has to issue notice under section 148A, giving the time not less than 7 days but not exceeding 30 days. However, assessee can seek extension, but still 7 days time, 10 days time is very less when we are talking about reassessment proceeding, because this is not in relation to normal assessment proceeding, which is initiated after end of the 3 months from end of relevant assessment year. It may be started after 3 years and 5 years, wherein assessee may need to collate relevant information and need to look into details and documentation. So considering that, if we see that 3 months time is given to assessee to collate documentation and to respond, so that is favorable situation for assessee. So somewhere I'll emphasize that professional need to handle the proceeding at 148A procedure in a very well manner, because if you are answering under 148A proceeding and officer thinks that this is not the fit case to issue 148, then your proceeding will be ended here. So again, I'll mention that for which assessment year notices have been issued in section 148A, then we can see as per law more notices from assessing officer are issued in section 148A.
Head office, the internet is still not stable.
Yeah, I had informed them.
If notice are to be issued under section 148, because limitation period under 148 is 3 years, 3 months and 5 years, 3 months. Now, as I mentioned that since the limitation period is under 148 is totally independent and not linked with 148A procedure, so can we say that still there is a time limit to issue 148 notice or show is over? So there are certain cases where section says under 148A, it is mentioned that 148A procedure need not to be followed by assessing officer, and the limitation period is totally independent under section 148. So limitation period is 3 months, 3 years, 3 months, and 5 years, 3 months. So basis that notice can still be issued in till end of June 25, where procedure under 148A is not to be followed. This need to be keep in mind, where assessing officer is having information in his possession in pursuant to scheme notified as per section 135A, then 148A procedure need not to be followed. In that scenario, directly officer can issue notice under section 148, for which time limit is end of June 25, by which officer can issue notice. So we can see as per law more notices from assessing officer by end of June 25. When we have understood the limitation period, which is given apparently in section 149 in relation to issuance of notice under 148, 148A, but we cannot forget to remember that provision of 149 and says that 148 notice can be issued anytime. There is no time period which has been given because it overrides entire section 149. This is the law as it is. I am reading the law, try to make it simple and clarify, and in subsequent slides there are certain examples also. With help of those examples, I try to explain these law also, because I have observed and experienced that in such a situation also that notices have been issued under 148. So this starts with non-obstante clause. This overrides the provision of 149. Whatever is written 3 years, 5 years, 3 years, 3 months, 5 years, 3 months, that is totally override. Notice under section 148 may be issued anytime for the purpose of making an assessment, reassessment, or recomputation in consequence of or to give effect to any finding or direction contained in an order passed by an authority in any proceeding under this act by way of appeal, reference, or revision, or by a court in any proceeding under any other law. So let's suppose for a particular assessment year, proceeding is pending before any appellate authority or court, and that appellate authority or court find that and give a direction or finding that there is prior assessment year also in which income escapement case can be there. So as per the direction and finding of that appellate authority or court, notice under section 148 may be issued at any time without considering any limitation period given in section 149. Now we read subsection 2 to section 150, which says that in certain scenario, the provision of subsection shall not apply. Subsection 1 shall not apply in a case where such assessment, reassessment, or recomputation as referred to in that subsection. So, any effect of any finding direction in pursuant to which any proceeding is referred or directed to be reopened. So, such proceeding is mentioned here, and that cannot be made if assessing officer is having time limitation period to reopen the proceeding at the time of assessment order has been passed. So I'm just giving you an example. Let's suppose कोई assessment order था, reassessment order था, जिसके pursuant अपील फाइल हुई, अपील के pursuant ये पता लगा कि prior year में भी income escapement है. अब जब वो assessment order pass हुआ, since assessing officer is also having information in his possession that there is income escapement, then assessing officer can also reopen the proceeding at that point of time. So considering that officer is duly empowered to reopen the proceeding, so in that scenario, subsection 1 shall not apply. But if time limitation period has been expired, then as per the finding and direction of court, assessing officer shall be empowered to reopen the proceeding under section 148 without any limitation period given in 149. So to make it simple and to make more clarity in the interest of professional, I am clarifying this law as per certain examples which are coming in subsequent slides. So this is the first example. Let's suppose proceeding under section 143(3) for assessment year 23-24 was before assessing officer. Limitation period is 31st March 25 because assessment proceeding need to be concluded within 12 months from end of the relevant assessment year. So limitation period is 31st of March 25. Order has been passed by assessing officer on 3rd of March. Now, what was the issue? That during the course of assessment proceeding under 143(3), the assessing officer has identified that assessee has repaid certain unsecured loan, which is 1 crore rupee. Now, as per ledger copy, assessing officer had in his possession that loan has been taken in prior years. So the details of loan in prior years is also mentioned here. Assessment year 22-23, 30 lakh loan was taken. In assessment year 21-22, 30 lakh again loan has been taken. And in assessment year 2021, loan of 40 lakh has been taken. So if we total this is 1 crore rupee and that has been repaid in assessment year 23-24. So the addition in relation to repayment of such unsecured loan has been made as unexplained expenditure during the course of proceeding in assessment year 23-24. But what about in relation to loan taken by assessee in prior years? So we need to understand whether assessing officer has or was empowered due to limitation period to reopen the proceeding of prior years or not. So if we understand first assessment year 22-23, since reassessment can be opened in 3 years, limitation period is 3 years. So that is the time limit which is available with the assessing officer is March 26. So since assessing officer is having sufficient limitation period to reopen the proceeding, hence matter will fall under matter will not be falling under subsection 1 to section 151. So there is no requirement to give any finding or direction from any court. If assessing officer has any limitation period, then he should open the reassessment proceeding at that point of time when he has passed the assessment order. Next assessment year 21-22, amount is 30 lakh rupee, which is less than 50 lakh rupee. This is the reason we are counting 3 years limitation period. 21-22, what is the limitation period? March 25. Since assessing officer has passed the assessment order on 3rd of March, तो वो 31st March तक proceeding reopen कर सकता था. So since in this case also assessing officer has limitation period, so accordingly he should reopen the proceeding. और उसके consequence में अगर appellate authority कुछ direction देती है, that will not be considered for reopening the proceeding. Next assessment year 2021, amount is 40 lakh. The period has been extended more than 3 years, and since amount is less than 50 lakh rupee, so considering that 3 years period will be given, and limitation period in this case is March 24. Now, if assessee aggrieved with the addition of 1 crore rupee, go into appellate proceeding, and CITA or any appellate authority or court find that there is loan which has been taken in past by assessee. So in this scenario, that appellate authority or court may direct to assessing officer to reopen the proceeding in pursuant to section 150. Now, with this issue and with this same example itself, I am making certain changes in the assessment year. So let's suppose that this is the case of assessment year 23-24. Limitation period, the same assessment year which I have discussed in example 1. In this case, the limitation period to conclude the proceeding is 31st March 26 instead of 31st March 2025. Officer has passed order on 3rd of March 2026, and the same finding which has been given by the assessing officer in the assessment order. Now, in assessment year 22-23, since the amount is less than 50 lakh rupee, and by end of March 26, assessing officer has limitation period of 3 years, so assessing officer can reopen the proceeding in pursuant to normal section 149. Assessment year 21-22, amount is less than 50 lakh rupee, and 3 years has been expired. So in this scenario, if there is any finding or direction from appellate authority, then proceeding can be reopened in pursuant to section 150. Now, assessment year 2021.
सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट यू हिमांशु जी, आप प्लीज एक बार अपनी वीडियो बंद करके देख लो. आपका ना ऑडियो अभी भी ब्रेक हो रहा है.
Okay.
हाँ.
Okay. So I start now. Hope it is better now. So
लग तो रहा है. मैं
now,
अभी आपको वापस अपडेट देती हूँ in 2-3 minutes.
sure. Okay. So now next assessment year is 2021. Amount is less than 50 lakh rupee, and 3 years period has been passed. So assessing officer has no time limit to issue 148 notice at his own. So in this scenario also, if there is any finding or direction from authority, then case is that professionals should understand कि ऐसा नहीं है कि आपका एक assessment year का limitation period normal 149 प्रोविजन में क्लोज हो चुका है, तो प्रोसीडिंग कभी ओपन नहीं हो सकती. सेक्शन 150 आल्सो नीड टू कीप इन माइंड कि उसमें उसके परसुएंट भी अगर कोई अपलेट अथॉरिटी की फाइंडिंग है डायरेक्ट. नेहा जी, होपफुली आई एम बेटर नाउ.
No, Bhimanshu.
Okay,
No,
so
you're still breaking up. I'm just calling someone from the head office to help you out. Bhimanshu, they are giving you another laptop. In the meanwhile, you can switch your video on and kindly disconnect your headphones.
Sure. Okay, so Neha, I disconnected my Bluetooth.
You're sounding
and,
better.
I start.
Yes.
So this is example 3 now, wherein the proceeding is in relation to assessment year 23-24. Hope I am audible. Neha, I am audible.
Yes.
Okay, sure. So in example 3, the assessment year is 23-24. Limitation period is 31st March 25. Again, order has been passed on 3rd of March 25. Issue is same, but now I have changed the amount which has been taken as unsecured loan in previous years. So in assessment year 22-23, 20 lakh rupee. And we may see that amount is less than 50 lakh rupee. And limitation period of 3 years has not been expired, then assessing officer can reopen the proceeding under normal provision. Similarly, in next year, the same scenario is there. Limitation period of 3 years not expired. Since amount is at his own, can reopen the proceeding. Now, third year, I have changed amount from 40 lakh to 60 lakh. Then in that scenario, the limitation period is 5 years now, because if amount which is income escapement is likely 50 lakh or more, then in that scenario, 5-year limitation period will be applicable. So since assessing officer has passed order in March 25, amount is more than 50 lakh rupees, so period is not expired. So assessing officer at his own can reopen the proceeding in this case also. In example 4, in assessment year 22-23, I have given the same amount of loan taken in previous years. I have changed only the limitation period to conclude the proceeding, as the matter has been referred to TPO. First assessment year 22-23, amount is less than 50 lakh rupee and period of 3 years has not been expired, then assessing officer can reopen proceeding at his own. But in next year, amount is less than 50 lakh rupee and 3 years period has been gone in this case, because assessment order has been passed in March 26, not in March 25. Then assessing officer cannot reopen the proceeding. This proceeding can be reopened as per the finding and direction of any appellate authority. Next assessment year 2021, amount is more than 50 lakh rupee. And since in this scenario, 5-year limitation period will be applicable, then assessing officer can reopen the proceeding at his own. Neha, hopefully now I am audible properly.
अभी हिमांशु जी ठीक चल रहा है. अभी जैसे जब आपने उतारा था अपना हेडफोन, तब थोड़ा सा आप अटके थे. अभी ठीक चल रहा है. इन द मीनवाइल हेड ऑफिस इज प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर अनदर कंप्यूटर. आप कंटिन्यू करो. I welcome Ms. Shipra Kochar, CEO OneNDF, our partners. Thank you for joining us today, Shipra.
Thank you, ma'am. Is this where we are giving the demo or a bit later?
शिप्रा जी एक बार लेकिन आप अपना शेयर स्क्रीन चेक कर लो
हाँ जी, श्योर मैम।
जब तक विमांशु जी अपना लैपटॉप चेंज कर रहे हैं।
Is my screen visible?
Not yet. Not yet. Yes, it is visible now. Shipra ji, would you like to take up the time right away? इसलिए क्योंकि
As you say.
हाँ, विमांशु जी थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल एरर से गुजर रहे हैं।
ठीक है जी, so I can do that.
Yes, yes, yes. I would quickly introduce you to our participants. OneNDF is a partner. We are happy to have them today with us. It is an online loan aggregation platform making life easier for chartered accountants while helping their clients in loan procurement. As I told you, Shipra ji is COO OneNDF. Thank you for joining us, Shipra ji, today. I would request you to please take up your 5 minutes of presentation to explain how OneNDF can help our members. Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you, Nirati. Thank you so much for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to OneNDF. We are a secured loan marketplace for the small and medium enterprises. और हम किसी भी client को home loan against property, working capital की requirement होती है, so that we take care of through our platform. हमने in the last 1 year we have onboarded 5,000 plus chartered accountants, and we are partnering with them. They're helping us grow our business, and we're helping them raise money for their clients via that. What I will do is I will take you through the journey on our platform. Is my screen visible?
Not right now. Please share again.
Not right. Yes, please.
It is visible now. Go ahead.
Okay. Right. So this is our platform. Like I said, we are OneNDF. We are building a secure loan marketplace. हमने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स के लिए एक डैशबोर्ड का एक्सेस बनाया है अपने प्लेटफॉर्म पे. यूजिंग द सीए पार्टनर टैब हम साइन अप और साइन इन कर सकते हैं. जैसे ही हम साइन अप करेंगे, हमें मोबाइल नंबर और ईमेल आईडी मांगता है फॉर स्टार्टिंग द जर्नी, एंड ईच टाइम इट्स एन ओटीपी बेस्ड जर्नी. I am taking you to a dashboard, which is a demo dashboard that I've created. जैसे ही आप साइन अप करेंगे, ये डैशबोर्ड आपको दिखेगा. इस डैशबोर्ड के थ्रू आप अपने क्लाइंट्स का सारा डेटा देख सकते हैं. कौन क्लाइंट्स एडेड हैं, कैसे ऐड होंगे. ऐड अ न्यू क्लाइंट के टैब के थ्रू आप नया क्लाइंट ऐड कर सकते हैं. जो पे आउट्स OneNDF को आते हैं वो हमने यहाँ पे शो कर दिए हैं. आप डाउनलोड करके देख सकते हैं. बैंक, किसी भी बैंक से हमारे जितने पे आउट्स आ रहे हैं वो सब लिस्टेड है. Loan marketplace के टैब पे we will show you all the banks and NBFCs that are listed with us, will be shown here. I will just show you that in a minute. Like I was saying, हर client का access आप देख सकते हैं, उनका क्या status है. It can be shown through here. आप हर client के dashboard पे भी जा सकते हैं. So I'm clicking on this journey, HI Limited India. इस client की journey के लिए हम एक start करेंगे पूरा process. Allow me a minute, please. So किसी भी client के dashboard पे login करने के लिए we can just click on their name and the journey will start right here. सबसे पहले हम एक नई loan application generate करते हैं, which is a quick journey. You can start with क्या loan type है, क्या category है, loan amount, tenure, and pull the credit score of the client. Once that is done, we do a complete financial eligibility of each client on the platform. Financial eligibility check करने के लिए 4 पैरामीटर्स हैं: क्रेडिट स्कोर, फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट्स, जीएसटी एंड बैंकिंग. सबसे पहले क्रेडिट स्कोर हम सॉफ्ट पुल करते हैं, तो हमने एक्विफैक्स के साथ टाई अप करा है. इट्स राइट हियर. वी पुल द इंफॉर्मेशन. एक ओटीपी जाएगा क्लाइंट के मोबाइल नंबर पे, और जैसे ही ओटीपी जाएगा वो रिपोर्ट उनके प्लेटफॉर्म पे भी शो हो जाएगी, और उनको साथ ही साथ उनके मोबाइल नंबर पे भी चली जाएगी एंड ईमेल पे भी चली जाएगी। पूरी ये रिपोर्ट जनरेट हो जाती है, लाइक आई सेड सॉफ्टफुल, इससे इंक्वायरी जनरेट नहीं होती। इसमें पूरे जो हमारे लोन्स चल रहे हैं वो सारे दिख जाते हैं, कौन से एक्टिव लोन्स हैं, क्या लोन अमाउंट है, कोई ओवरड्यू है, वी कैन सी ऑल ऑफ दैट। दिस इज वन पार्ट ऑफ द जर्नी। आई एम टेकिंग यू बैक टू द सेकेंड एस्पेक्ट विच इज द फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट। इसको हमने दो जर्नी में ब्रेक किया है। अगर तो वो क्लाइंट आरओसी पे लिस्टेड है, तो वो डेटा पैन नंबर से ऑलरेडी फेच हो जाएगा और बैलेंस शीट और पीएनएल यहाँ पे कम्प्लीटली शो हो जाता है। इन केस नॉट तो हम आईटीआर फेच करके ऑथेंटिकेट करा के ये डेटा पुल कर लेते हैं एंड एक सिमिलर रिपोर्ट प्लेटफॉर्म पे शो हो जाएगी। ये रिपोर्ट लास्ट 3 साल की होती है। इसमें पूरा टैक्स कैलकुलेशन, रेशोज ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म बिल्ड हो जाएंगी, बैलेंस शीट और पीएनएल शो हो जाएगा और ये आप डाउनलोड भी कर सकते हैं फॉर योर कंजम्पशन एंड रिक्वायरमेंट। The third step that we complete is GST because जो ऑडिट डेटा होता है वो 1 साल पुराना होता है, तो किसी भी बैंक को एलिजिबिलिटी असेस करने के लिए फाइनेंशियल्स चाहिए होते हैं, सेल्स चाहिए होती हैं। सो फॉर दैट वी पुल द GST। इसमें भी ऑथेंटिकेशन करेंगे। जैसे ही ऑथेंटिकेट होगा दिस डेटा विल शो ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म। लास्ट 1 साल में क्या R1 फाइल हुई है, 2B फाइल हुई है, किस हेड में फाइल हुई है, एक्सपोर्ट में ओरिएंटेशन, एक्सपोर्ट बिजनेस हो रहा है, इंपोर्ट हो रहा है, एवरीथिंग वी कैन कैप्चर दिस ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म इटसेल्फ। कौन से हमारे मेजर क्लाइंट्स हैं, किन के साथ हमारी आउटवर्ड ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रही हैं, कौन हमारे मेजर कस्टमर्स हैं, वो सब यहाँ पे शो हो जाएगा एंड अगेन वी कैन डाउनलोड दिस डेटा ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म। The fourth step is the banking analysis. इसमें हम बैंकिंग अपलोड कराते हैं। I'm sorry, I'm facing a little bit of an internet trouble. तो जैसे ही बैंकिंग अपलोड करेंगे तो यहाँ से पूरी बैंकिंग का एनालिसिस शो हो जाएगा, किस महीने की बैंकिंग अवेलेबल है, क्या हमारा एवरेज बैंकिंग बैलेंस शो हो रहा है, किस टाइप की ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रही हैं, अगर बाउंसिंग हुई है तो वो शो हो जाएंगी, कितने लोन्स चल रहे हैं, वी विल बी एबल टू सी दैट। Once again, this data is available as a report for you to download for cash flow analysis. If not, जैसे ही ये डेटा हम अपने प्लेटफॉर्म पे कंप्यूट करते हैं, हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म एलिजिबिलिटी शो कर देता है एज टू कौन से बैंक से कितने लोन अमाउंट की एलिजिबिलिटी बनती है, which I'm taking you on to the loan application tab to show. So once the loan application is generated, वो डेटा completely tabulate हो जाता है। तो यहाँ से हम देख सकते हैं हमारे कौन से बैंक से कितने लोन अमाउंट की एलिजिबिलिटी बन रही है। As we can see, मैंने एक बिजनेस लोन की एप्लीकेशन उठाई थी, हम सारी डिटेल्स भरी, तो एक एलिजिबल लोन अमाउंट निकल के आ गया फ्रॉम वेरियस लेंडर्स ओवर हियर। हम इसको जर्नी को यहीं से स्टार्ट करके सबमिट करेंगे, तो ये जर्नी या तो बैंक के एलओएस में डायरेक्टली सबमिट हो जाएगी या साथ ही साथ अगर हाइब्रिड जर्नी चल रही है कहीं पे तो हमारे रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर उसको पिक करके पूरी कोऑर्डिनेशन एंड टू एंड करेंगे एंड दैट एप्लीकेशन कैन बी ट्रैक्ड ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म इटसेल्फ। Now the interesting part about this is that any of your clients, when there is a disbursement that happens, not only the first time ये disbursement का हम revenue sharing करेंगे, हम each time the client takes a loan from us, we will be happy to do a revenue sharing. And whether it is a client based in Delhi or anywhere in India, we're able to service that sitting from this place itself. Over to Neha ji. I think that's it about the platform. In case anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer that.
एब्सोल्युटली शिप्रा जी, आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट कि आप वो ईमेल आईडी जहां पर मेंबर्स डेमो के लिए या क्वेरीज के लिए भेज सकते हैं वो चैट बॉक्स में सभी मेंबर्स के लिए शेयर कर दीजिए। एंड टू शेयर माय पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस विद वन एनडीएफ प्लेटफॉर्म, मैं तो इसको ड्यू डिलिजेंस के लिए भी यूज कर लेती हूँ। सो दैट इज एन एडिशनल फीचर दैट वी हैव फॉर द प्लेटफॉर्म। Bhimanshu ji, thank you so much. Shipra ji, thank you for joining us. Thank you Janvi ji for joining us. Bhimanshu ji, आप काइंडली अपने आप को अनम्यूट करके चेक कीजिए इफ योर टेक्निकल इशू हैज बीन रिजॉल्व्ड। Bhimanshu ji, can you hear me? Bhimanshu ji, kindly unmute yourself.
Hello. Yes, Neha
Yes.
ji, I am trying to fix the issue and joining in 2 minutes.
Okay, sure. Shipraji, in the meanwhile, if you would still like to show something else to our audience, we have 2 more minutes from Bhimanshuji. Head office, could you please check if Sanjay sir is available to answer 1 or 2 questions in the meanwhile?
Just
Neha, while team
Yeah.
is fixing the issue, so I continue here.
Yes, sure. If you want, we can take 1 or 2 questions instead.
Okay, sure.
हाँ, हाँ. ले सकते हैं. Rajan ji is asking Bhimanshu ji, can AO go beyond the information on which 148 is issued?
Sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Can AO go beyond the information on which 148 is issued?
Sorry, I cannot hear you. Can I see the question?
Yes, please open the Q&A box.
Yes. I can see only one question. What are the charges OneNDF?
No. Can AO go beyond the information on which 148 is issued?
Okay.
Rajan ji ka question hai.
Yeah, yes. So basically what happens that reassessment proceeding will be reopened basis the information which is available with the assessing officer. Now, this is the reason I mentioned that 148A procedure need to be handled in a very well manner, because if proceeding will be quest or concluded at that time, then there would not be any further point on which assessing officer can go beyond that point. But let's suppose proceeding under 148 starts, and subsequently assessing officer identified that there is another issue also. Irrespective that 148A procedure has not been followed, then definitely assessing officer can make addition on that issue also.
Bhimanshu ji, we can hear you clearly.
Okay.
आप continue करो, please present करो screen.
Sure. Because this is the case of recomputation, reassessment, then assessing officer is duly empowered to go into the computation of assessee and can make addition on another issues also. So I just share my screen and then continue. Please allow me right to share my screen.
allowed.
Yes. Hope this is visible.
Please go ahead.
Yes.
Yes. So we have understood 4 examples till now, and there are another 2 examples also. But in the interest of time, what I just want to mention here, that professionals need to understand कि 3 years or 5 years निकल गया, then proceeding नहीं open हो सकती है. Then also proceeding can be opened in pursuant to section 150. अगर कोई डायरेक्शन किसी अपलेट अथॉरिटी या किसी कोर्ट से आता है कि आपके जो प्रायर ईयर्स था जिसका असेसिंग ऑफिसर नोटिस नहीं ओपन कर सकता था या प्रोसीडिंग नहीं रीओपन कर सकता था जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ लिमिटेशन पीरियड, then in pursuant to that finding and direction, that proceeding can also be reopened irrespective any time limit which has been passed under provision of section 149. Now, as I mentioned that 148A procedure is very important to understand here, because if we are handling proceeding at 148A procedure, then this goes in favor of assessee itself. So what I have done, that I have made a comparative chart that what is current law, which is Finance Act 24, and what was the earlier law, which is from assessment, which is Finance Act 21 to Finance Act 23. So first is that in prior law, there is a provision under section 148A subclause A that if assessing officer is required to make any inquiry in relation to any information available with him, then basis that and taking prior approval from a specified authority, then he can make inquiry if required. But in current law, there is no inquiry is required. Assessing officer is having information basis that only 148A notice can be issued. Second is time limit to respond in show cause notice. As I mentioned initially, that assessing officer had to give time in prior law 7 days at least and maximum 30 days time. But that time period may go beyond also as per the request of assessee. But in current law, there is no time period which has been given to provide by its show cause notice under 148A. So generally what assessing officer is doing, they are giving 10 days time, 15 days time, because as per judicial pronouncement, 7 days time is a very reasonable time to respond any show cause notice. So considering that AO अभी 10 दिन 15 दिन का टाइम दे रहे हैं, but as I mentioned कि technically कोई limitation period 148A का क्लोज करने का नहीं है, बट 148 नोटिस इशू होने का है, विच इज जून 25. सो कंसीडरिंग दैट irrespective of the fact that there is no provision in 148A to take any extension to respond, assessee can file response before assessing officer and seek extension. But yes, here my suggestion to professional is कि अगर आपकी proceeding on है और अभी 148 इशू नहीं हुआ है एंड यू आर इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ कोलेक्टिंग इंफॉर्मेशन टू ड्राफ्ट रेस्पॉन्स एंड फर्निश बिफोर असेसिंग ऑफिसर, submit an adjournment letter that assessee is in the process of compiling information and will submit the response in due course, which you need to submit anyhow before 30th June 25, क्योंकि वहां तक का जो लिमिटेशन पीरियड है वो 148 इशू होने का है. Now next point is, can the assessee may ask for adjournment? That I have covered in my previous slide also कि करंट प्रोविजन में ऐसा कोई स्पेसिफिक मेंशन नहीं है प्रोविजन में जिसके परसुएंट assessee may seek adjournment, but still since limitation period to issue 148 is 3 months, in our case this is end of June 25, so considering that assessee may take adjournment also in this scenario. What was prior law? That time extension was allowed to assessee, and what was the consequence in that कि जितना भी टाइम पीरियड assessee को in pursuant to 148A प्रोसीजर में लगा है उतना ही टाइम पीरियड एक्सटेंड हो जाएगा लिमिटेशन पीरियड टू इशू 148. सो लेट सपोज आपको नोटिस इशू हुआ था 20 मार्च 2024 को, असेसिंग ऑफिसर हैज गिवन यू 8 days टाइम टू रेस्पॉन्ड. देन एज पर 5th प्रोविजो टू सेक्शन 149, जब 148 का नोटिस असेसिंग ऑफिसर इशू करेगा देन ये जो टाइम 8 days का दिया है वो उसमें लिमिटेशन पीरियड में ऐड हो जाएगा. जस्ट टू ऐड दैट, अगर असेसी ने कोई एडजॉर्नमेंट लिया है, लेट सपोज 15 days टाइम का एक्सटेंशन लिया है, देन 148 इशू करने में प्रायर लॉ में वो 15 days टाइम और ऐड हो जाता था. कंसिडरिंग दैट देयर इज नो लिमिटेशन टू टेक एक्सटेंशन, बट यस 148 का जो लिमिटेशन पीरियड है वो बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ 5th प्रोविजो टू सेक्शन 149 वो ऑटोमेटिकली एक्सटेंड हो जाता था. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज, नोटिस शुड बी अकम्पनीड विद द इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल विद द AO. This is very favorable situation for assessee and professional. Prior law में assessing officer directly 148A issue कर रहे थे basis certain information which is given in the notice itself, and now assessee need to respond that. But in this provision and in the current law, the notice under 148A is accompanied with the information available with the assessing officer, which suggests that assessee is having income escapement. So now assessee in a very better position to reconcile the things, reconcile the information in their records vis-a-vis the information available in the records of income tax department. So now I should say कि 148A का जितना भी proceeding है, now you can handle in a very well manner now. Next point is response to notice under section 148A. Then it is not mandatory to respond to 148A because language say assessee may furnish response to notice 148A. But it is always better to respond 148A in a very well manner because that will help you either to drop the proceeding by considering that this is not a fit case to issue 148, or if notice will be issued under 148, then you will be in a better position to handle that proceeding because certain information and relevant documentation you have already submitted before the assessing officer, and that is available in the records of assessing officer now. Next point is order to determine whether this is a fit case to issue notice under 148 or not. Then in prior law, we have seen that order under 148 AD need to be issued. So what happened that जब प्रोसीजर फाइनेंस एक्ट 21 से चेंज हुआ, अभी 3 साल में हमने समवेयर ये समझा कि 148 ए बी में नोटिस आता है, देन फिर 148 ए डी में ऑर्डर आता है. बट नाउ बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ फाइनेंस एक्ट 24 law has been amended again, and now we are seeing new sections under which 148A notice are being issued. So 148A subsection 1 is section where notice are being issued under 148A procedure and order are being passed under 148A.
Again, network issue, I think.
Yes, he is stuck.
जितना टाइम दिया है जिस और उस मंथ एंड के नेक्स्ट मंथ तक, देन असेसिंग ऑफिसर नीड टू पास order under 148A along with issuance of notice 148. But in the current law, which is White Finance Act 24, there is no limitation period to pass order under 148A. But since limitation period to issue 148 notice is 30th June, then anyhow, the assessing officer need to conclude the proceeding under 148A by end of June 25. This is the main thing which we need to understand. Specified authority for taking approval while passing order under 148A, because we have seen in past that if assessing officer has not obtained approval from proper authority, then your proceeding may be quashed. So earlier there was two authority, specified authority in different circumstances from which assessing officer need to take approval while passing order under 148A. If case is up to 3 years, then this was principal commissioner or principal director, commissioner or director. But if case goes beyond 3 years, then the specified authority were principal chief commissioner, director general, chief commissioner, director general. Now there is no as such distinguishment has been given कि 3 years में अलग approval लेना है, 5 years में अलग approval लेना है. Specified authority is same in both the scenario. Now assessing officer need to take approval either from additional commissioner or additional director or joint commissioner or joint director. So these are the specified authority from whom assessing officer need to take approval while passing order under 148A. As I mentioned earlier that in certain circumstances, assessing officer need not to follow 148A procedure. So there were condition in prior law also that we will discuss in tomorrow's seminar, tomorrow webinar, because tomorrow we will discuss the notices which have been issued after 1st April 21 till 30 August 24. Now we are discussing the notices which have been issued in March 25 in pursuant to Finance Act 24. So what is the circumstance wherein assessing officer need not to follow 148A procedure? So if assessing officer has received information in pursuant to scheme notified in section 135A, then officer can issue notice under 148 directly. There is no requirement to follow procedure under 148A. So what section 135A talks about, that if assessing officer has collated certain information in a faceless manner in under 133 section 133B, 133C, 134 or 135. In that scenario, since assessing officer has information in a faceless manner, then as per law, then assessing officer need not to follow 148A procedure. He can directly issue 148 notice. Now I'm coming to other sections. Till now we have understood 3 sections. One is section 149, which talks about limitation period to issue 148 and 148A. We have understood section 150, which talks about that limitation period given in 149 will not be applicable. Proceeding may go beyond 3 years and 5 years also. Also, we have understood the revised procedure which is being followed nowadays by assessing officer in pursuant to section 148A. Now coming to base section, which is charging section for reassessment proceeding, which is 147. So somewhere again the principles are same. Income should be escaping assessment. So the earlier judgment which was talking about and which has interpreted that what is income escapement, that shall be applicable as it is. Now a query also have been raised in between and which can be answered in view of explanation to 147, that if during the course of reassessment proceeding, assessing officer gets certain other issue and he think that this is also income escapement, then he can make addition on that issue also. So that is as per explanation to 147. It is irrespective of the fact that 148A procedure has not been followed for that particular issue. Now we are talking about very important section, which is 148, which talks about that notice under 148 need to be issued and what is the further action for assessee or professional need to be taken care after issuance of 148. So in past, we have seen that 148 notice need to be served by assessing officer to the assessee to respond and to take any further action. But now White Finance Act 24, first time we have seen that notice need not to be issued, notice need not to be served, but if notice has been issued, that is sufficient in pursuant to 148. So what is the implication to make change from serve to issue? So let's suppose we are talking about 31st March 25. Officer from his office has issued the notice on 31st March 25, but that has been received to assessee on 1st of April. Then we cannot say that notice has been served after limitation period, then proceeding may be quest, because now wording has been changed from serve of notice to issue of notice. Again, if we see 30th June 25, notice has been issued, let's suppose on 29 June or 30 June from the office of assessing officer, but that has been served or received to assessee on 1st July or 2nd July, then we cannot say that since notice has been served after limitation period, then this is the violation of law. Because if notice has been issued within the limitation period, then that is sufficient for reassessment proceeding. But I just want to highlight one point here, that my worry is not in relation to notice which has been issued on 30 March or 30 June and that has been served after 1 day or 2 days. My worry point is in relation to notices which have been issued to assessee but never have been served to assessee. There can be certain circumstances. Let's suppose we can take an example of rural areas wherein a farmer has sold his immovable property and in pursuant to that farmer has obtained PAN also, but he has never registered over income tax portal. And that happens also because nowadays assessing officer is having possession in relation to information from registrar also. So in that regard, if assessing officer is issuing any notice, but since assessee have never registered himself over income tax portal, then notice will never be served to assessing. Then in that scenario, since we are talking about reassessment proceeding, the consequence of which can be severe on assessee because 4-5 saal purana case hai, then demand would be along with interest also. This proceeding is basis the information which is assessing officer. So considering that, my point is that the wording should be revised to serve. And there may be constitutional challenge also to this wording of issue, because if we are talking about reassessment proceeding, then it need to be ensured that notice has been duly served to assessee. If we check the time limitation period to conclude the proceeding of 153, the language is same. I'm coming to that slide for interest of listeners. So limitation period, which is as per section 153 is, I'm reading second serial number, where notice under section 148 is served on or after 1st April 2019. The limitation period to conclude reassessment proceeding is 12 months from end of the financial year in which notice under 148 is served. Language has not been changed in that section as issued, that is still served. So my point is, when notice has never been served, then how you will compute the limitation period in that scenario? So ideally, and also if we see the memorandum also of now, if we read section 148 further, the notice 148 need to be issued to to the assessee, in pursuant to which assessee need to furnish return of income. And the limitation period which is given as per law to file income tax return should not be less than 3 months, should be maximum 3 months from end of the month in which such notice has been issued. So that can be 30 days, that can be 40 days, that can be 60 days. So that is as per the discretion of AO that what time he is giving to assessee to respond. But still, I just want to highlight one point here, that whatever is the limitation period to file return is given by the assessing officer to assessee, that return should be filed within that limitation period. Because if we read subsection 2 to 148, that says that if return has been filed within the time given by assessing officer to assessee, that will be considered as return file under section 139. And what is the benefit to consider it as written under section 139? That officer is bound to issue 143(2) notice. Let's suppose you have filed return within the time period given by assessing officer, and by any reason 143(2) notice has not been issued to assessee, then your proceeding may be quashed in that scenario. So my point again to just to communicate to professionals that at what level you are handling the proceeding, every response need to be given in a timely manner. Although you may file adjournment also, but respond to assessing officer. I am reading second proviso, which is highlighted in blue. Provided further that where assessing officer has received information under scheme notified under 135A, then no notice under this section shall be issued without prior approval of a specified authority. So this is also a point which need to be noted professional, that in that scenario we have understood in prior slide that 148A procedure need not to be followed, since assessing officer is issuing 148 notice directly. Then at this stage also, assessing officer need to take prior approval from a specified authority, and we have understood a specified authority now, which is Joint Commissioner, Joint Director now, and we need to take this point from the notice also. Now we can in the interest of time, we can discuss the issues in pursuant to which notices have been issued. But if Nehaji, if you allow that, we can take queries also in the interest of time, or right.
Viewers, I want to give one clarification. The speaker has talked about section 150. In fact, only those proceedings can be opened or reopened which were pending on the day when the assessing officer has passed the order, not in respect of any 100-year-old. So the thing is this, the assessing officer could have opened that particular year also. That is a very important in 150. There are a lot of clarification or you can say case law. So, for example, if you are finalizing the case of 1718, now on, let us say on 24 March, he could open 1718 or 1617. Now, any appellate authority, let us say CIT appeal, ITO, or ITAT or High Court, if they say, no, this should have been assessed in 1516. So he could not have opened 1516. So those authorities cannot give that particular instruction.
Right.
But 1617,
Right.
they could give. Or they can say that instead of A, if it is accessible in B,
Right.
and in B that year is also reopenable on the date of passing the order.
Right.
If it is CIT appeal, then IT order.
Right.
If it is ITAT, then we have to see both the orders.
Correct.
CIT appeal could have directed the reopening. Was it possible on that day or not? So these are the few things which we have to understand for the purpose of 150.
Right.
Please.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying this thing. So now, in the interest of time, we can issue the factual issues also, based on which the notices have been issued, that how to handle those issues while responding to notice under 148A or 148, or if there is any query from the professionals, so we can consider that also and we can answer that. So Nehaji, is there any query from any professionals? We can take that up and then we can discuss these factual issues. Okay. So okay, so we are discussing the first issue. And this is very important to understand that let's suppose proceeding under section 148 is reopened in March 25 for assessment year 1920. Now we need to take a note that assessment year 1920 has been considered in prior law also, in pursuant to which office for September 24. Then in haste, the assessing officer has issued notice by end of August 24 also, and that is for assessment year 1920. And again, since 5-year limitation period to issue 148 notice for assessment year 1920 was March 25, then officer is being issued notice under 148 or 148A for assessment year again 1920. So in that scenario, you need to keep in mind that since your proceeding is already pending before the assessing officer, then the next notice or the new proceeding which is opened by assessing officer will not be survived. In that scenario, this can be a case to file writ for new proceeding, and that may be quest. So this is something which we need to keep in mind, that whether proceeding is reopened or pending or not. Next point is that notice issued under 148 in March 25. So let's suppose, and we have seen also that in March 25, various notices have been issued directly in 148 instead of following the procedure on 148A. So although time has been expired, but as I mentioned initially, that to handle reassessment proceeding, this is awareness of the law as well as strategy also. So somewhere what we should do, and we can consider it while issuing the notice under March 26, if your return is same and you have disclosed each and everything in original return, then by end of March 25 or whatever is the end of the year, immediately file return under 148. Because although one issuance of 143(2) is computerized, but let's suppose if department missed to issue notice under 143(2) by end of June 25, then your proceeding may be quest. So this is a point which may be taken as an strategy only. Now, there are issues based on which assessing officer is having information, and maximum issues are in relation to those years in which assessee has not filed his income tax return. So you may see that from serial number 3 to 6, I have taken the issues in which return of income has not been filed by assessee, but there are certain transactions which have been done by assessee. So let's take first example, return of income has not been filed, but there are certain deposits in bank on account of receipts from relatives. So now officer is realizing that since you do have credit in your bank account, now officer don't have any information whether you have taken these receipts from relative or unrelated person, but you do have receipts in your bank account. You have not filed your income tax return. Then in that scenario, how to handle the proceeding at 148A procedure? You need to reconcile that what is the information available with the assessing officer. Let's suppose he gives you an amount that this is the amount which you have deposited in your bank account. Now check the bank statement, see that what is the amount which you have taken, from what relatives you have taken this amount, and if those relatives covered under section 56 and income and the receipts are not taxable, then you may say that since this is exempt in view of section 56, then this is not the case of income escapement, and accordingly this is not the fit case to issue 148. But my point is, you need to reconcile the information which is available in the records of department. You need to represent matter by way of proper drafting, and then submit the submission before the assessing officer. Now, next point is that again, return of income has not filed, but assessee has earned certain salary income. Now we can understand that if assessee has earned salary income and which is more than 2.5 lakh rupee, then assessee is under an obligation to file his income tax return. But what you can explain to assessing officer that this is my salary income, my employer has deducted TDS on that salary income. So accordingly, this is not the case of income escapement. In that scenario, now assessing officer is having his discretion whether to consider it as this is not a fit case to issue 148, or let's suppose he issue 148 saying so that you do have income more than 2.5 lakh, but you have not filed your income tax return. Then at the time of issuance of 148 notice, considering all the particulars in case of assessee, file income tax return, because if you are filing that income tax return, then issue may be resolved at that stage itself. But I have seen in many cases that order have been passed as a base judgment assessment. Order has been passed under section 144 because we are not responding to assessing officer, and we are under an impression that since TDS has been deducted or my income is exempt, so accordingly my income is not income escapement. But we need to inform to assessing officer by way of proper drafting, by way of proper representation. Issue number 5 is, again, return of income has not been filed, but assessee has made investment in FDR. Now you need to reconcile that what is the investment in FDR which have been made. Is there any income during the year, or this is the investment made in pursuant to savings of past years? So now what you need to do, that you need to explain the source of investment in those FDRs. It may be the case that you have made certain FDR in past. These are matured in the beginning of the year, relevant assessment year, and then you renewed that FDR. And assessing officer is having information that you have made investment in FDR. Since you do have proper source to make investment in FDR, so by way of proper representation,
I think again,
assessee
network
being an
issue.
individual has purchased an immovable property. This is a practical case on which various notices under reassessment have been issued. In that scenario, what you may do, that what is the source of money basis which that immovable property has been purchased by assessee. It may be possible that assessee is having his past saving basis which immovable property has been purchased. It may also be possible that during that relevant assessment year, assessee has taken amount from relatives which is exempt in pursuant to section 150 in pursuant to section 56. But you need to explain to assessing officer. Issue number 7, which is again very common issue and various notices have been issued. Assessee has taken unsecured loan. Let's suppose during the course of any search proceeding or survey proceeding, assessing officer has in his possession that you have taken unsecured loan from any person. Then what you need to do in that scenario? You need to justify and substantiate your claim by way of furnishing documentation. And what documentation you can attach while filing your submission? First is the loan agreement that may be into records of assessee. Loan has been taken via banking channel. You can give the statement, bank statement, highlighting the transaction. If that loan has been repaid in subsequent years, then you may also attach those bank statements highlighting the transaction that this is genuine loan which has been taken by assessee and that has been repaid also. There may be a scenario that interest on that unsecured loan has also been paid by assessee to that loan provider, that you may can give the ledger copy to assessing officer. And that on interest on unsecured loan, there may be TDS deduction also. So you may submit the challan copies of TDS deduction, TDS deposit, Form 16A, in pursuant to which TDS credit is reflecting that you have deducted and deposited in the account of recipient of interest. So these are the documentation basis that you may substantiate or claim that although you have taken loan, but that is genuine loan, that is by way of banking channel, you need to submit the identification document that this is genuine loan that has been taken by assessee and that has been repaid by assessee. In case of unsecured loan. Issue number 8, cash pertaining to assessee has been recorded from the books of account in third party search. We may notice that certain notices have been issued in March 25. Let's suppose there is a search on a builder from whom you have purchased a immovable property. Now that builder has recorded certain cash in his books of account in your name. Now you need to prove that whether cash pertains to you or not. If you have taken that immovable property at circle rate, there is no involvement of cash at all from your client side, then you may give documentation to assessing officer that this is the agreement which is between me and builder. This is the circle rate on which I have executed this transaction. I have made entire payment through banking channel. Now, in that scenario, if you give these information, then assessing officer is under, and this is the onus on assessing officer to prove that how this cash pertained to you, because you have given proper documentation to show that this cash does not pertaining to you. But yes, before doing so, I just make a caveat also that you need to be sure that there is no involvement of any allegation making by assessing officer in your case. Next is that bogus sale, bogus purchase, which has been taken by assessing officer in his record from any such proceeding, either under income tax law or from GST law. But you need to show that how this sale or purchase is genuine in your case, whether you have recorded those sale and purchase and you can reconcile those sale and purchase from GST return. What is the amount of sale purchase in your books of account? What is the amount which is alleged by the assessing officer? What is the amount which has been taken into GST return? So somewhere this type of reconciliation may help to client and assessee to respond the notices in a very well manner. So there may be another issues also on which 148A or 148 notice have been issued, but on example basis, I have taken certain examples here. If there is another case, then the analogy or the strategy or the drafting or representation should be followed in a same manner, that you need to reconcile that what is the information available with the assessing officer, what is the documentation, and what is the fact and figure in your particular case, and how it can be reconciled so that notices can be responded in a very well manner. So I believe so that uh, and also one important point I just want to highlight here. If search has been initiated before 30th August 2024, then in that scenario, I have noticed that old procedure are being followed by the assessing officer. New procedure is being followed by assessing officer. Although in that scenario, as per the law, old procedure which is stood immediately prior to Finance Act 24 need to be followed by assessing officer. So that is also very important point which you need to keep in mind while handling the reassessment proceeding. So I try to explain the law, current law, prior law, and also the uh, practical cases. Now, if there is any query, I'll take it up and answer. And if there is any further query, then you may send it to Team Voice of CA, or you can write it to me. We will try to answer those queries also.
Absolutely. You can always reach out to us at voiceofca@gmail.com. We have already shared the social media details also in the chat box for you. कुछ questions Bhimanshu जी हमारे पास हैं. तेरेंद्र जी पूछ रहे हैं, सर वी रिसीव द नोटिस अंडर 148AB in July 2024 and we filed the reply, but till date assessing officer has not issued any order under section 148AD. Till date case status is pending at income tax portal. What is the status of this notice? Please clear for assessment year 1890.
So since the notice under 148AB has been issued in prior law, and that is very much clear that when the officer is issuing those notices, और लेट सपोज आपने जैसे जुलाई 24 का उसमें मेंशन किया, देन बाय एंड ऑफ दैट मंथ, एंड उसमें एक मंथ और ऐड कर देते हैं, ऑफिसर इज रिक्वायर्ड टू कंक्लूड द प्रोसीडिंग बाय दैट टाइम. इफ प्रोसीडिंग इज नॉट क्लोज्ड बाय पासिंग ऑर्डर अंडर 148AD, then you may say that is time barred and you may file writ or you may handle the proceeding in that manner. But yes, that is time barred proceeding.
Thank you. We have few questions in the chat box also. सबसे पहले बिल्कुल starting में संजीव सर का एक question था. We'll take that up. Please teach about the assessment of person other than the person searched. Earlier, he was subject to 153C. Now it seems to be 148, but I'm confused whether 153C is abolished.
Yes, so when the law have been amended by Finance Act 2021, and if search has been made on or after 1st April 21, then in that scenario, the procedure under 148A need to be followed. 148 or 148A need to be followed, because the search proceeding which was under 153A section, that was deleted by the government by Finance Act 2021, but yet again by Finance Act 2024 that has been revamped, and now if there is any search proceeding, that has been revamped in a block assessment manner. If I talk about particular query, then yes, your proceeding need to be handled in reassessment proceeding under 148, not under section 153C.
No 148A.
Shall I proceed with the next question?
Yes.
संजीव सर, अगर आपका पॉइंट नहीं कवर हुआ है तो प्लीज आप हैंड रेज कर सकते हैं. ओके, संजीव सर कह रहे हैं जिस पॉइंट पे 18, अच्छा ये हम कर चुके हैं आंसर. अमित जी कह रहे हैं इफ द इनकम एंड एफडीआरस आर इन. हाँ संजीव सर बोलिए. Sir, kindly unmute yourself. Sir, kindly unmute yourself. Bhimanshu ji, मैं next question ले लेती हूँ तब तक. If the income and FDRs are in NRI account and no return is filed for the year, as NRI did not have assessable income, is it a fit case for 148A notice? Remaining income accessible in India for the year was below basic exemption limit, so no return was filed.
So in that scenario, what I understand that since there is no income which is accessible in India, and this is the main investment itself. So somewhere what happened that we need to reconcile while responding to notice under 148A, that what is the source of income basis which the investment have been made. There can be source of income related to prior years, which has been duly taken into account while filing income tax return, and which is tax paid also. But yes, we need to handle proceeding under 148A. We need to respond, we need to reconcile that what is the source of investment in those FDRs.
अमित सर, एक्चुअली विमांशु जी ये कहने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इनकम हो उस ईयर में या ना हो, अगर कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं उसके नाम में, तो मतलब इनकम अगर नहीं भी है
Notice-
उस साल में, तो 148A का नोटिस नहीं आ सकता, ऐसा कहीं नहीं लिखा.
ऐसा नहीं है,
करेक्ट विमांशु जी?
करेक्ट, क्योंकि असेसिंग ऑफिसर या फिर एक, अगर हम इन जनरल चीज सोचें कॉमन पार्लेंस में, कि अगर मैंने इस साल में कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट करी है तो आइडली मेरे को इनकम भी रिकंसाइल करनी पड़ेगी. अगर मैं बैलेंस शीट भी बनाता हूँ और मेरी कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट या मेरे खर्चे हैं, तो साइड बाय साइड मुझे देखना पड़ेगा कि इनकम भी है या नहीं है. अब इनकम हो सकता है कि मेरी इसी साल की हो, जो असेसिंग ऑफिसर कहना चाहता है, लेकिन इनकम हो सकता है कि मेरे रिजर्व में हो और प्रीवियस ईयर को पर्टेन करती हो, which I need to explain to assessing officer.
एब्सोल्युटली. मोहन लाल जी पूछ रहे हैं सीपी आवर्स. सर, वॉइस ऑफ सीए फ्री वेबिनार्स करता है, इसके कोई सीपी आवर्स नहीं होते हैं. सीपी आवर्स वाले प्रोग्राम्स के लिए हम लोग आपको लिंक शेयर करते हैं. हमारा एक रेडी रेकनर है, उस रेडी रेकनर से आप नियरेस्ट सीपीआर प्रोग्राम देख सकते हैं. संजीव सर, काइंडली अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ.
हुआ नहीं क्या अभी अनम्यूट? हेलो.
यस सर.
सर वो जो अभी आपने 153 का बताया था ना?
जी.
हेलो.
जी जी.
तो उसमें कि 2021 में जो बजट आया था उसमें से 153 मतलब ब्लॉक असेसमेंट खत्म हो गई और 148 में असेसमेंट होगी.
करेक्ट.
अभी ये चेंज नहीं है तो यहाँ तक
नहीं,
ठीक है मेरा इधर?
नहीं, आप बिल्कुल ठीक बोल रहे हैं. 2021 से वो चेंज आया था, तो पहले सर्च
2000
प्रोसीडिंग.
हाँ प्लीज आप बोलिए. हाँ.
हाँ, so prior to 21 there is a position, the search proceeding was separate, reassessment proceeding was separate, but there is a merger वाइट फाइनेंस एक्ट 21 कि अगर कोई सर्च वाले भी केसेस हैं उसके परसुएंट भी रीअसेसमेंट प्रोसीडिंग होगी. नाउ वाइट फाइनेंस एक्ट 24, गवर्नमेंट थॉट कि अगर किसी का ब्लॉक असेसमेंट है और मोर देन 1 ईयर की इंफॉर्मेशन उनके रिकॉर्ड्स में है, तो हर ईयर का नोटिस 148 में कैसे इशू किया जाए. तो वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली भी पॉसिबल नहीं था उनके लिए, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव भी नहीं था, फ्रॉम डिपार्टमेंट पर्सपेक्टिव ऑल्सो, फ्रॉम असेसी पर्सपेक्टिव ऑल्सो. तो व्हाट दे हैव डन, they bring the concept of block assessment again, White Finance Act 24.
तो ये सर जो ब्लॉक सिस्टम होगी 153 में होगी ना?
उसके लिए अलग सेक्शन हैं, 158 BC वगैरह जो पहले हुआ करते थे, उसी को इन्होंने रिवैम्प.
सर नोटिस 3 में चलेगा या 148 में चलेगा, ऐसे बताइए पहले मेरे को.
डेट आई टेक ए क्लैरिटी एंड विल रेस्पॉन्ड कि कौन से सेक्शन में प्रोसीडिंग आप, बिकॉज आपका स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन है कि किस सेक्शन में मेरी प्रोसीडिंग चल रही है. करेक्ट.
हाँ, क्योंकि पहले कई जजमेंट आई हुई है कोर्ट की 148 में, उसने मतलब 153 में होना चाहिए तो उसने किसी और सेक्शन में नोटिस दे दिया, तो सारी असेसमेंट क्रैश हो गई.
एक्चुअली इस सेक्शन में आपकी प्रोसीडिंग होनी है, वो डेट ऑफ.
हेलो.
हेलो.
हाँ सर.
जो आपकी प्रोसीडिंग्स हैं कौन से सेक्शन में चलेंगी, वो डेट ऑफ सर्च से डिपेंडेंट है.
अच्छा, डेट ऑफ सर्च, डेट ऑफ नोटिस का मतलब नहीं है ना, डेट ऑफ सर्च.
डेट ऑफ सर्च है, क्योंकि जो भी सब जैसे सनसेट क्लॉज आई 1421 में, वो 153A की आई, 153A BC।
ठीक, अच्छा तीनों की है।
अब जो 158 BC से पहले जो 148 विदाउट 148A की प्रोसीडिंग के जो वो सर्च प्रोसीडिंग थी वो 31 मार्च 24 तक है, 25 अभी
25 तक जो सर्च होगी।
21, हाँ जी 30 अगस्त है, 30 अगस्त है
डेट,
वो।
सर डेट ऑफ सर्च है, डेट ऑफ कंक्लूजन ऑफ सर्च, मतलब दोनों
ना
अलग चीज
ना
हो गई ना।
देखिए, ऑलवेज डेट ऑफ कंक्लूजन ऑफ सर्च जो है टाइम बारिंग के लिए होता है,
ठीक,
और डेट ऑफ सर्च स्टार्टिंग डेट लॉ के लिए होता
ये
है।
सर
फॉर एग्जाम्पल
लास्ट वाला
देखिए
प्लीज।
दोबारा बताऊं, मान लीजिए किसी की सर्च अगस्त में 1 तारीख को शुरू हुई
जी,
और कंक्लूड हुई, नया लॉ आ गया 5 सितंबर, 1 सितंबर को आ गया, 5 को कंक्लूड। नॉर्मली 60 डेज ले सकते हैं।
हाँ,
तो आपको जो लॉ लगेगा वो जो 1 अगस्त या 5 अगस्त को जो लॉ है दैट इज 148A।
ठीक है।
और टाइम बारिंग स्टार्टिंग कहाँ से, या टाइम बारिंग की कैलकुलेशन जो है उसके लिए जिस दिन लास्ट पंचनामा ड्रॉ हो वो डिटरमाइन होती
टाइम बारिंग मिस फॉर इशू फॉर डेट
है
ऑफ
फॉर
फाइनल ऑर्डर।
कंक्लूडिंग द असेसमेंट।
ठीक, आगे सर, थैंक यू।
ठीक है ना जी? ये
थैंक
थोड़ा
यू
सा
तो
मतलब कॉम्प्लेक्स है।
नहीं, ठीक है,
एनी टाइम बाकी कोई भी हो आप वॉइस ऑफ सीए पे लिखिए, हम कोशिश करेंगे आपकी क्वेरी का जवाब दे। 148 में अगर मैं आपको दिल की बात बताऊं
जी,
तो 148 अपने आप में आज की डेट में इनकम टैक्स एक्ट से बड़ा हो गया है।
ठीक है।
तो ये बात करेंगे।
ठीक है सर, ठीक है।
नेहा जी कोई और क्वेश्चन which is pending to respond?
1 सेकेंड में चेक कर रही हूँ, कोई क्वेश्चंस तो नहीं पेंडिंग रह गए हैं। एक्चुअली इनिशियली
That has
सर
been answered. Can
एक क्वेश्चन और था।
क्वेश्चंस तो ऑलमोस्ट हो गए बाकी।
एक क्वेश्चन था सर। हेलो,
हाँ सर, बोलिए बोलिए।
पूछिए सर।
सर ये ऐसा था कि जैसे पॉइंट को किसी इशू पे
कर दिया था
148 इशू हुआ हमारा, ठीक है जी। हेलो,
बोलिए सर, बोलिए।
हाँ, किसी पॉइंट पे 148 इशू हुआ, उस पॉइंट पे एडिशन नहीं हुई, लेकिन कोई और पॉइंट क्या कह रहे थे मैं इस पे एडिशन करूंगा, तो वो पॉसिबल है? पहले तो पॉसिबल नहीं थी, मतलब बिफोर 21।
Right. So they are judgments. NBEXC Laboratory of Delhi High Court.
सर एनबैक्सी जो है वो जो था वो 21 तक के लॉ के लिए था, क्योंकि एंड वर्ड लिखा हुआ था उसमें, और वो एंड का चक्कर हो गया ना जी अब तो।
Correct. So now officer may do that addition also, which is not in relation to issue on which proceeding are being opened.
इवन उस पे भी एडिशन, इवन जो प्राइम इशू था उस पर एडिशन नहीं होती, लेकिन न्यू पे कर सकता है वो, है।
Correct.
ठीक है सर, ठीक है, थैंक यू।
है
हाँ जी, हाँ जी बताइए।
इनका इशू है कि जिस पॉइंट पे रीअसेसमेंट हुई उस पे एडिशन नहीं हुई है, नए इशू पे एडिशन हो रही है, तो
नहीं सरवाइव नहीं करेगी। आज की डेट में भी न्यू लॉ में भी अगर आप देखेंगे
सेम
तो मेरी ओपिनियन में जेट एयरवेज और एनबेक्सी लेबोरेटरी आपके लिए वैलिड है।
सर एनबैक्सी में तो ये था ना कि एंड वर्ड लिखा हुआ था 21 से पहले वाले लॉ में, अब वो नए वाले में एंड हटा दिया है, तो उसको मतलब
नहीं, लेकिन बेसिक जिस प्रिमाइस पे आपका असेसमेंट खोला अगर वही सरवाइव नहीं करा तो असेसमेंट कहाँ से सरवाइव करेगा?
ठीक है सर, ठीक।
जिस प्रिमाइस पे असेसमेंट खोला वही नहीं तो असेसमेंट कहाँ से कर लेंगे? चाहे उस प्रिमाइस पे 1 रुपए का एडिशन करे हो,
जी,
वो जरूरी है।
ठीक सर, ठीक।
कि अगर आपका कोई और व्यू है तो आप लिखिए।
नहीं
इसको
सर,
फिर
मेरा भी आपसे ज्यादा लगता है।
ठीक है ना जी?
ठीक।
जैसे
सर एक क्वेश्चन रह गया है।
बोरोड सेटिस्फेक्शन आज की डेट में कोई वैल्यू नहीं रखती है, लेकिन फिर भी बोरोड सेटिस्फेक्शन इसलिए होती है कि रेप्लिकेशन नहीं है कहीं। मान लीजिए पैन नंबर एक्स का था, वाई का खोल दिया, बाद में कहते हैं कि नहीं नहीं एक्स का खोल सकते थे, तो ये
ठीक।
चीज। हेलो,
हाँ जी सर, एक क्वेश्चन रह गया है Ankit Jiga, if search has been conducted on other person, not an SSC, before 1st September 2024, and notice has been issued to SSC under section 148 for assessment year 23-24 after 1st September 24, then whether notice under section 148A is mandatory to be issued to SSC, especially in light of newly inserted section 152(3).
No, so again, the procedure is same that in general 148A notice need to be issued. But yes, there are certain exception which is given in section 143A itself, that if information is collated by assessing officer in pursuant to scheme notified under section 135A, 135A, then in that scenario, it is not required to follow procedure under 148A. In that scenario, assessing officer can directly issue 148.
Okay. If there are any other questions of the participants, तो वो बोल सकते हैं. अंकित जी कह रहे हैं, our case is not covered under section 135A.
Then assessing officer need to follow 148A procedure.
अंकित जी, अभी भी आपका क्वेश्चन अनआंसर्ड रह गया तो प्लीज हैंड रेज कर दीजिए.
जो 152(3) सेक्शन की बात कर रहे हैं अंकित जी आप, वो एक डेट दी है कि अगर लेट सपोज आपका जो सर्च है वो 30 अगस्त 2024 से पहले का है, इन डेट सिनेरियो जो लॉ स्टूड था फाइनेंस एक्ट 24 से पहले वो प्रिवेल करेगा.
अंकित जी, काइंडली अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ.
So there may be change in the procedure of 148A procedure, but yes, 148A procedure need to be followed in both scenarios.
बोलिए अंकित जी.
अंकित जी म्यूट पर हैं आप.
अंकित जी, मैंने आपको राइट दे दिया है, काइंडली स्पीक. Okay, no issues.
So basically what you are trying to say, I think say you understood that if this is the case of search prior to 30 August 2024, then old law need to be followed. But जो पुराना लॉ था और उसमें जो एक्सेप्शंस थी, उस केस में अगर लेट सपोज कोई सर्च वाला केस है और जो कार्व आउट हो रही थी एक्सेप्शन 148A के प्रोसीजर में, वो वर्डिंग जो एडिट थी साथ में प्रायर अप्रूवल ऑफ कमिश्नर भी थी कि अगर कमिश्नर का अप्रूवल है, कुछ ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन है डेट पर्टेन्स टू असेसी इटसेल्फ जिसके केस में सर्च हुई है, या फिर थर्ड पर्सन जिसको बिलोंग करती है पर्टेन करती है वो इन्फॉर्मेशन, और असेसिंग ऑफिसर ने अप्रूवल ले रखी है, in that scenario 148A procedure need not to be followed. In that scenario 148 notice directly can be issued. Hopefully I am clear now, and if still there is any doubt you may discuss separately.
एब्सोल्युटली. आप फिर से अपनी कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल्स चैट बॉक्स में शेयर कर दीजिए विमांशु जी, या स्क्रीन पर डिस्प्ले कर दीजिए, जिससे कि हमारे मेंबर्स को अगर कोई फर्दर क्वेरी हो तो वो आपको रीच आउट कर सकें.
Okay, I shared it. This is visible?
यस, थैंक यू सो मच. मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी मेंबर्स को कि अगर वो विमांशु जी की कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल्स नोट करना चाहते हैं तो वो कर लीजिए. हमारे सोशल मीडिया की डिटेल्स हमने चैट बॉक्स में शेयर करी हैं फॉर द फ्यूचर प्रोग्राम्स एंड ऑफ कोर्स आल्सो फॉर द लिंक ऑफ दिस वेबिनार. आई होप आप सब हमें कल भी ज्वाइन करेंगे. we'll be starting the webinar tomorrow also at 5 PM. और अब कल हम सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ द टॉपिक को कवर करेंगे. I will thank all the participants now, and thank you so much Bhimanshu for being so patient with us and for answering all the queries, and thank you all the participants to be so patient when the technical issue was going on. And tomorrow we'll hope that technical issues not there with us. Ankit ji, we'll be sharing the PPT in our next newsletter, which is scheduled for Friday. So yes, all right. All right, thank you so much. We'll now close the session. Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Kindly send your queries at voiceofca@gmail.com, Ankit ji. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.